What's up, everybody? It's Will here with A-List Audio, back with another video. This one here, basically, I got, somebody hit me up on Instagram. We were talking back and forth about some, us being able to, trade marketing promotion and stuff, so that way we can both get attention, because he's got a fairly decent following and so do I on Instagram. So he was like, yo, you should try and do a video using nothing but samples. So I kind of sort of did that, this bass line, because this is the main bass line, and so this one needed to be a little bit of an actual sub bass. So I did use that to recreate basically this bass here, and then I added some drums on top of a drum loop. Besides that, everything else is a sample. Even though technically the drums, it's a kick sample, a hand clap sample, but anyway. So this was the original, what I started with. Let me go ahead and solo it out. This is the original sample that I got from sounds.com. So that's pretty much what the sample does. And then I also got the that vocal that you hear at the beginning of it. Let me go ahead and play it again. That vocal that goes, it's just a Vox. And so I ended up getting that. They actually had it on the website, so I was lucky, because I wanted to be able to use that throughout the beat. And so I was like, man, that would be dope if I could have it, and then I found it. So that's basically the sample. On that one, I took out all the low end on it, of course, and then I did some compression on it in order to bring the level back up. I used this this Fatten preset. I'm not sure where I got it. Oh, okay, it tells me here by type, and then I went to Fatten. So compressor by type. And then on the top here, you have FET Fatten. That's pretty much what I did to be able to have that sample a little louder. And I just tried Fatten just to see. It's not that important. Technically, all I really wanted to do was get levels. And so I'm gonna do an explanation of how compression really works for instruments and for vocals and stuff. I might just do one whole video on it. A lot of people don't really understand, how compression really works. And I think I have a pretty good grasp on it to be able to explain it in a different way than, I'm sure there's millions of videos on YouTube, but there's a lot of producers who don't really get it. And even I struggled with it for many years, so I'm considering doing that. But anyway, I digress. I took that same sample and I did it the halftime on it. I did some compression on it, some EQ, a lot of EQ. I basically just left this out just to have like a cool little, like a secondary melody. I went ahead and added some tremolo on it with the phase all the way down, 1/16, and everything else I left the same because it's at 100 and 100. And so it's giving it like a dun 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 dun. And that's mainly for, you won't really hear it much in the chorus, but it's mainly for the verses. That's when you'll hear it the most. And I think what makes this beat stand out is this bass line. I think this bass line here. So I ended up adding my own bass distortion. I just didn't really distort it much. I actually lowered the drive. Let me go ahead and zoom in for you guys. I lowered the drive, pretty far down, so that way it's not necessarily the distortion that I needed. Really was the sub bass. I could have gotten rid of it, but when I lowered it, it sounded really good, so I left it. On the equalizer, I basically cut out, a lot of the low end, since I had this sub, it just wasn't enough even with that. But you don't want to have too much bass. I don't want them to clash together. So I took off, a lot of bass all the way up to 83. You can see here. And then I ended up, doing a high pass filter. A low pass filter. And then I went all the way down to 1100. And then I curved it up so that way I could get, I kind of messed with these two here until it's mainly this one that lets you change how high it goes up at the end. And so I wanted to get the dirtiness of that bass synth. I really like, if you should mess not only with the frequency here, but you should mess with these two. These change the angle, and changing the angle, you might hear something that you didn't know was there. And so it gave me, that rasp, that dirty, it's like a dirty lead is what you'll see a lot in patches. So it has like sound. So when I did that, I was like really sold on it, you know. And then I ended up using my spreader, which is the wider plugin that I use. I went about 70% on that. And then that's pretty much all I did on that, besides this doesn't matter here. You know, the bass distortion, you know, I have a preset that automatically adds. Let me zoom into all this stuff here. You know, this is something I saved already. You know, the bass, it's a sub synth bass. You know, my EQ, I basically always take off all the high end on it. I do my distortion, my reverb, my wider, and then, you know, the sub bass is, you know, I kind of pretty much saved it with that. And then I can just adjust this, you know, sub frequencies, you know, the way that I want. I generally, now that I've saved it as a preset, I generally don't mess with it much. I took, you know, the only thing I messed with was my distortion. I took off the drive, but that's it. And so I'm liking that, you know, you should really save your presets. If you have a sound, you should definitely save your presets and the sounds that you use, like, you know, your specific sounds, because that's how you that's like step one of developing your sound. Timbaland, you know, his beats sound the same. He generally stays around the same types of sounds, and that's what gives him that. That's why when you hear a Timbaland beat or a Dr. Dre beat or even a Kanye beat to some extent and other producers, you kind of just, you know, it's them because of the way that they do their drums, the way that their sounds are set up and everything. They generally stick to that. And that's just step one, you know. The second, you know, there's other steps, but you definitely want to continue to develop your sound, mix and edit this, you know, with the certain tricks, you know, especially if you could develop a certain trick that hasn't been done yet or a genre that hasn't been done yet, which I'm kind of doing with this one here. If you think about it, you know, like this is kind of like an R&B, trap, future bass type sound. And so I really like it because I threw this synthesizer in here. And what I did on that one is, you know, I did a regular tremolo, which is making it go, this one does it 132. So that way it's going really fast, like dun, 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 dun. And then I spread it a lot. If you see here, my spreader is 136. And then it sounds like a main melody with it, but it's really not. I considered taking it out, but I'm trying to experiment something new. I want to see if somebody hears this and they're like, yo, this is different, it's dope. But if you hear with the bass lines, so I really like this. What I did for the drums, you know, this is the loop right here. I'll show you the loop first. You know, number one, I wanted a deeper kick. Number two, I wanted to just basically I was just going to keep the hi-hats, you know, when you equalize. You know, I usually will take this here and go all the way up to around this range, the 2000 range. And then, you know, by doing that, it just keeps the hi-hat sounds. And then all this the stuff like the kick, the claps or snares or whatever is generally low enough where whatever drums I throw on top of it will pretty much disappear. But in this case, I didn't mind that hand clap, but I ended up just loading my own drums because I wanted a harder kick. So I ended up coming in here. This is the kick. And then I added a hand clap. Nothing crazy, but when you throw them on top together, and with the bass lines, what'll end up happening is if for whatever reason, you know, because what I like to do is I have a small circle of friends, like maybe 3 or 4 of them. One of them just wrote me, as a matter of fact, a text message. But you know what I like to do is I'll send my beats to like that select group. At the most, there's 5 of them that I send beats to. Some of them are artists or used to be artists, and so, you know, they'll tell me, yo, this is different, I really like it, or man, I understand where you're coming from, that synthesizer there is not that good. And so even though I'll do a final mix for this video, If you notice, my website doesn't have all the 14 beats that I've for the challenge, the 14 beats in 14 days. All the beats that I've done now, which with this one is there's 12. I've only uploaded to the website like 3, maybe at the most 4. And so it's because those aren't final mixes. I'll go back to them eventually once this series is done and I can sit down and just work on beats. And there might be stuff that I take out. There might be stuff that I leave. There might be stuff that I'll just add whatever feels like is missing. So in this case, you know, I'm not 100% sure on this synthesizer here. You know, so that's one of the things that I'll listen to it later on and be like, maybe, you know, it was experimental, I'm not happy with it, or maybe I'll just remake it myself and do something that will sound better, you know, because it could just be a different synth sound that it needs. But I would love to do more of a future bass stuff, especially with one of my artists. You know, he does more R&B, but he's trying to do experimental as well, trying to transition into something else. So I'm trying to get him to do some future bass, you know, because it's easy to do for me. And so, you know, that's one of the things I'm working on. But, you know, for the intro, the way it transitions, this one, and so I ended up keeping, you know, the way it transitions over here. If you look, this little here, I ended up just leaving it here so you can hear how it drops. So I left that for the intro, so when it starts, and then lastly, you know, the verses, they drop. Then the bass line drops here. Then I added this little melody here. It's like a Dr. Dre-ish type melody. But it basically doesn't play during the first hook, but it plays during the second one. So it's kind of like a little like the track is building. I shouldn't say Dr. Dre, it's more like a Timbaland type melody. That's pretty much what I did to the track. To close this out, it was fun. It's pretty cool, but you know, at the end of the day, I went through so many samples. It's 2:41 p.m. I like to upload my videos at 4 o'clock. So by the time I edit this video and everything, I might just make it or in the 4 o'clock area. And so I started working on this beat a little, like around 11 a.m. or a little before 11 a.m. So I've been working, it's going on 4 hours. I don't generally take that long to make my own beats, like when I'm using my own sounds, because, you know, it takes me a while to find the first, because I make the drums easily, and then it takes me a while to find that first melody, and then after that, it's just finding stuff that goes with it. And so I generally will make my first melody, and then I'm like, okay, maybe this type of synthesizer, and then I'm kind of just looking for something like that. I think my system of making my own beats is a lot more efficient than trying to find sounds that go together. But it's not a bad experience, you know, to be able to piece all this together and try to make it different. Like some stuff I pitch down, sometimes I pitch up, some stuff I add the halftime plugin. And so, you know, it's pretty cool to be able to do that stuff. But not my fear, but one of the things I don't like is, you know, thinking like somebody could hear this bass line here, you know. Somebody could hear that bass line and be like, man, I've heard that before. I'm a little like skeptic or a little hesitant to use sounds like that. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of producers. I saw a video, like an interview of a producer that worked with a famous singer. I'm not going to say either one of their names, but it was a hit song, and he sampled from Splice, I believe, the 808 sounds and a melody from it, and then he just built on top of that, and then the singer, she came on there and she made a hit song, and it's like on the radio. And so there's other songs, even in the Spanish culture. There's a reggaeton song or tropical song, pop song that came out that, you know, it was like an amazing song. And I know exactly what sound they sampled in order to make it. And so it's an interesting world, but, you know, it's not terrible. If you're the type of producer who you're not really great at making melodies, then, you know, I say it's worth it to sign up for something like Splice or Sounds.com or something that you can get sounds and just drop beats to them, you know. And it's something that I'm going to continue to do. I'm truly going to keep my membership with Sounds.com you know, and maybe try out Splice. I've never really used it, and so, you know, that way I have like a broad variety of different sounds and stuff that can take me out of my norm, and also help me when I get into those moments where I'm just going through a rut, where I'm just like, man, I can't make a beat to save my life. Well, this is a good outlet for that. So, you know, that's my thing on this video. You know, like always, you know, leave any comments, any suggestions, you know, down below. And if you have any, seriously, I would love to get some feedback. So, you know, if you think that this is a better format, me explaining what I did, let me know. So I'm just trying to, you know, develop a good system for my videos and find my niche in YouTube, because there's a ton of people doing this as well. So I just want to do something different, and hopefully I'm able to teach people in a different way. So, you know, thanks for watching. Peace.